बोले तो मैं
పంటలు ఏమనుంది ఇక కొంచెం ఇస్తారా మీ వంటలు ఏమనుందండి అడుగు ఇందులో ఏం లేదు చిరం చేస్తాం లేవు రేపే మళ్ళా టుమారో 11:30 అట్లా లీనియర్ అట్లా ఫ్లో చేసుకుంటారు
అది ఎవరు అయిపోయింది తిరుగుతాను కూడా
లేదా మరి
ఇక్కడ ఎవరు इधर कट जाए సార్ సార్ చెప్పు సార్ అదే అవన్నీ కలిపే ఉంది సార్ అది ఆ లెటర్ కూడా ఉంది దాంట్లోనే అది డ్రాలో ఉంది సార్ అదే ఈ పక్కన డ్రాలో వేసాం సార్ పక్కన అన్నీ ఉంటాయి ఒకే చోట సార్ ఇవన్నీ టేబుల్ మీద దాని మీద సార్ పేపర్లో టేబుల్ మీద కవర్లు అన్నీ ఉంటాయి సార్ సరే సార్ వస్తాను సార్ ఒక నిమిషం వచ్చిందమ్మా లైన్ వచ్చింది ఇప్పుడు కాకపోతే ఫోన్ చేస్తాను నమస్తే చెప్పండి ఓకే 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 అడిగు అంటే టైమింగ్ వేరే నెక్స్ట్ కి అంటే వెయిటింగ్ ఓకే 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 సార్ ఓకే ఇప్పుడు ఆ పిల్లలకి మరి ఏం చెప్పలేదు సార్ అది క్లోజ్ అయిపోతుంది మరి సేమ్ టైంలో రావాలి సార్ పొద్దున టైం మెయింటైన్ చేసుకోండి అయితే రావడానికి ఉండదు సార్ వేరే క్యాండిడేట్ ఓకే సార్ ఓకే సార్ ఓకే సార్ ఎవరన్నా నారాయణ రెడ్డి Your student. వచ్చిందమ్మా సోషాలజీ తర్వాత లక్ష్మి కూడా సోషాలజీ ఇప్పుడు కాదమ్మా 2:30
మీ మైక్స్ అన్ని మ్యూట్ చేయండి సో దట్ యు విల్ బి ఏబుల్ టు lot of disturbance is coming. I request all the members to mute. కొన్ని మైకులు ఇక్కడ నేను చేసినా కూడా మ్యూట్ అవ్వటం లేదు, అందుకని మ్యూట్ చేయండి. నేను మాట్లాడింది వినపడుతుందా? ఆర్ యు ఏబుల్ టు హియర్ మీ?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So welcome to Is Sociology.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, shake a seat.
Today is the first day.
నాకు ఇక్కడ కనపడుతున్న పేర్లు చదువుతున్నాను. ఇంకా చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు, 33 దాకా ఉన్నారు. Once again, welcoming you all. Let us all start. This is your first class, I know that.
Yes, ma'am. This is our first class.
How many of you previously did sociology at your undergraduate level?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, ఇప్పుడు సోషాలజీలో సోషల్ సైన్స్ తీసుకుంటారా మ్యామ్, లేకపోతే సోషల్ ఎకనామిక్ ఎలక్ట్రికల్ తీసుకుంటారా మ్యామ్?
కదమ్మా మీకు ఇప్పుడు సోషియాలజీ, ఎంఏ సోషియాలజీ కదా ఇది.
మ్యామ్ 2 బుక్స్ ఉన్నాయి మ్యామ్.
అమ్మా
1 సబ్జెక్ట్ లో 2 డివైడ్ అయి ఉన్నాయి మ్యామ్.
1 సబ్జెక్ట్ లో 2 డివైడ్ అయ్యింది. ఫండమెంటల్స్ ఆఫ్ సోషియాలజీ అని మీకు పేపర్ 1 ఉంది కదా.
Yes, ma'am.
సో ఆ పేపర్ ని ఇప్పుడు మనం చదువుకుంటాం.
ఓకే మ్యామ్.
మీకు బుక్స్ వచ్చేసాయా?
యాక్చువల్లీ మాకు ఇంతవరకు బుక్స్
జనరల్ ఎలక్ట్రిక్. హలో మ్యామ్.
మాకు ఇంతవరకు బుక్స్ ఇవ్వలేదు మేడం.
I request all of you please unmute your mics. Then only you will be able to hear me, or else you will
okay ma'am.
hear me.
Actually ఒక స్మాల్ డౌట్ ఉంది మేడం. ఇంతవరకు మాకు అయితే బుక్స్ అయితే ఇవ్వలేదు మేడం.
ఓకే,
మరి ఎలా మేడం?
పంపిస్తారు వాళ్ళు ఇవాళే కదా, ఫస్ట్ క్లాస్ ఇవాళే కదా.
అవును మేడం, అవును.
విల్ బి సెండింగ్ యువర్ బుక్స్.
ష్యూర్,
లేదంటే
థాంక్యూ.
మీరు స్టూడెంట్ సర్వీసెస్ డివిజన్ ఉంది కదా, అక్కడికి వెళ్ళి మీ బుక్స్ తెచ్చేసుకోండి.
సరే మేడం, థాంక్యూ.
మీ అంటే ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ క్యాంపస్ లోనే మీకు స్టూడెంట్స్ సర్వీస్ ఉంటుంది.
అవును, అదే అడిగాను మేడం. ఈ రోజు మార్నింగ్ వెళ్ళి అడిగేసి వచ్చాను నేను.
అదే మీ కార్డు చూపిస్తే
ఇన్ఫార్మ్ చేస్తామని చెప్పారు.
అదే అంటే ఇంకా ఇప్పుడే స్టార్ట్ అయింది కదా, మళ్ళా కరోనా దాంతో 31st వరకు క్లోజ్ ఉండింది. కరోనా లిటిల్ బిట్ problems will be there. Within a couple of days or within a week, all the problems will be over. Don't worry. Those who are having books after the class, my request is to read the lesson. ఎందుకంటే మీరు ఒకసారి విన్న తర్వాత ఇమీడియట్ గా చదివితే బాగా అర్థం అవుతుంది, గుర్తుకు కూడా ఉంటుంది. So that is the reason it is better to read it. Okay. Now I will be teaching fundamentals of sociology. Then later some other paper also. But to begin with, fundamentals of sociology or principles of sociology, our first paper we are going to start today. 6 to 7 classes we are going to have for this paper. Remaining classes we are going to have for the other paper. Okay. I think those who have studied sociology at undergraduate level, this To some extent, maybe a kind of repetition. But it is not exactly repetition, whatever you did at undergraduate level. It is a little bit more in-depth, you can say. Okay? So I usually follow. I have to talk. I'll be talking. But one thing, if you are having any doubt related to the subject, you please stop me and you can ask. We both will be discussing. In order to cover more topics or a topic in detail, I'll be sharing some PowerPoint presentations also.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, na dera general knowledge undi, ma'am. Gender science. Ma'am,
మీరు తప్పు దాంట్లో తల్లి మీరు బిఏ చదువుతున్నారా ఎంఏ చదువుతున్నారా?
బిఏ మ్యామ్.
మేడం నేనైతే బిఏ ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ మేడం.
అందరం
బిఏ ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ మ్యామ్. జెండర్ సైన్స్ ఉంది, జెండర్ ఎలక్ట్రికల్ ఉంది మ్యామ్.
I think I don't know whether I made a mistake or you made a mistake.
No ma'am, like optional లో చూస్తే దొరుకుతుంది మ్యామ్. అంటే తను జనరల్ సబ్జెక్ట్స్ చూస్తుంది.
yes మేడం.
ఆప్షన్
సోషియాలజీ వచ్చిందా?
బిఏ సోషియాలజీ మ్యామ్. బిఏ సోషియాలజీ మ్యామ్.
బిఏ సోషియాలజీ వచ్చిందా? దాంట్లో మరి సోషియాలజీ చూడండి.
బిఏ ఫస్ట్ టైం మేడం. బిఏ సోషియాలజీ
ఫస్ట్ టైం.
నాది యాక్చువల్ గా ఒక్క నిమిషం ఉండండి, నేను కనుక్కొని మీకు చెప్తా ఇప్పుడే. ఐ థింక్
మ్యామ్ బుక్ ఇలా ఉంటుంది మ్యామ్. బిఏ సోషియాలజీ.
somewhere some kind of mistake is. Yeah, that is the paper which I am going to teach.
Yes ma'am.
Yeah, then where is the problem?
Yes ma'am.
No, that is the subject I will be teaching. చూసుకోండి అక్కడ పెట్టారు కూడా కదా.
Yes ma'am. ఇదే బుక్ కదా మ్యామ్.
ఈ పుస్తకాన్ని తీసుకోండి. This I am going to. ఓకే
మ్యామ్ ప్రెజెంట్ బుక్స్ లేని వాళ్ళు ఇప్పుడు మేమేమైనా నోట్ చేసుకోవాలా లేకుంటే జస్ట్ వింటే
చేసుకోవాలి కదా, ఎందుకంటే మీ దగ్గర బుక్ లేదు కదా.
అవును మేడం.
మీ దగ్గర బుక్ లేదు కాబట్టి బుక్ ఉన్నా కూడా ఇట్ ఈస్ బెటర్ టు నోట్ డౌన్ సమ్ పాయింట్స్.
షూర్ మ్యామ్, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
మీరు పాయింట్స్ నోట్ డౌన్ చేసుకుంటే ఈజీగా గుర్తు పెట్టుకోగలుగుతారు.
ఓకే మ్యామ్, ఓకే మ్యామ్.
ప్లీజ్ కీప్ పేపర్ అండ్ పెన్ విత్ యూ.
ఓకే మ్యామ్.
మేడం బుక్స్ డైరెక్ట్ గా తీసుకోమన్నారు కదా, వైజాగ్ వాళ్ళు ఎక్కడ తీసుకుంటారు మ్యామ్? వైజాగ్ వాళ్ళు ఎక్కడికి వెళ్తారు?
వాళ్ళని స్టూడెంట్ సర్వీసెస్ డివిజన్ ఉండదు, అకాడమిక్ దాంట్లో ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి అంత ఐడియా ఉండదు. ప్లీజ్ ఆస్క్ దెం. ఓకే
ఓకే మ్యామ్, థ్యాంక్ యూ మ్యామ్.
And ask them. Right? Shall we go into the subject? I will be teaching first year semester.
మ్యామ్ కొంతమందికి మైక్ అన్మ్యూట్ చేయమని చెప్పండి మేడం. మీ వాయిస్ కంటే అది బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ మ్యూజిక్ ఎక్కువ వస్తుంది మేడం.
అది మ్యూట్ చేయమని చెప్తే వాళ్ళు చేయట్లేదు. నాకు ఇక్కడి నుంచి చేయడానికి అది రావట్లేదు, అందుకోసం.
లేకుంటే వాళ్ళని రిమూవ్ చేసేయండి మేడం, ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళ తరపున వేరే వాళ్ళకి కూడా డిస్టర్బెన్స్.
ఇప్పుడు వాళ్ళని చేయలేను, ఎందుకంటే యూనివర్సిటీ వాళ్ళు హోస్టల్ కదా, వాళ్ళు చేయగలుగుతారు.
అవునవును, ఓకే.
నా చేతిలో ఉండదు, నా చేతిలో మ్యూట్ చేయడం వరకు ఉంటుంది. సో ఐఎమ్ డూయింగ్ దట్. ఒకళ్ళిద్దరు ఇంకా మ్యూట్ కావడం లేదు. ఉదాహరణకి నాగరాజు పడమట, ఆయన్ని మ్యూట్ అవ్వలేదు. శివ ఓకే. తర్వాత శివ M31 అని ఉంది, అది కూడా మ్యూట్ అవ్వలేదు.
మేడం మ్యూట్ ఎవ్రీవన్ ఆప్షన్ ఉంటుంది మ్యామ్, అది క్లిక్ చేయండి.
అది చేస్తే రావట్లేదు. అట్లాంటి వాళ్ళతో చెప్తున్నాను. అది చేశాక నాకు మ్యూట్ చేయడానికి ఉంటుంది, కానీ దీస్ 2 నేమ్స్ మొత్తం 32లో ఇవి 2 మ్యూట్ అవ్వలేదు. That's the reason. Okay, now still some disturbance is coming.
Ma'am, లేదు ma'am, continue.
Another class is going on, I think. Undandi.
Ma'am, Hari Prasad, Guha, Valida, Devi Lakshmi, అది ఇప్పుడు హరి ఇప్పుడు ఓకే మేడం.
ఓకే కదా?
ఇప్పుడు ఓకే.
అది వాళ్ళ దగ్గర BREAOU వాళ్ళ దాంట్లో క్లాష్ అయింది. That is the reason this has happened like that. Okay, then fundamentals of sociology. So I'm sorry, first I thought it is a PG class. That's the reason I made a mistake, undergraduate level. And for you people, sociology, I think, is a very brand new subject, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Previously, you might have studied the sciences or commerce, economics or political science, like that, but never sociology. మీ ఇంటర్మీడియట్ లెవెల్ వరకు సోషియాలజీ సాధారణంగా ఉండదు. కొన్ని యూనివర్సిటీస్లో మాత్రమే ఇంటర్మీడియట్ లెవెల్లో సోషియాలజీ ఉంది. సరే, వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇట్ ఈస్, సోషియాలజీ మరి ఏదో, ఐ మీన్, ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ వెరీ, వాట్ కెన్ ఐ సే, సీరియస్ అండ్ ఆల్ దట్. ఇట్ ఈస్ వెరీ వెరీ ఈజీ టు అండర్స్టాండ్, వెరీ ఈజీ టు డిస్క్రైబ్, very easy to remember. Only thing is you need some kind of writing practice. The very first question, what is sociology? Any student would ask this question. The simplest answer which any teacher can give is sociology is about society. Don't you think it is a very simple one? Pamshi Alla, right? Did I pronounce this correctly? Yeah.
Yes, madam. Correct, madam.
Yeah. So Sheikh Asif, society, what is society? What
People, madam.
Lifestyle we are having, that is known as culture in sociology. And what type of institutions we are having which help us to fulfill our needs and all those things. What type of relationships we maintain within the family, outside the family, with friends, with neighbors and all that. All these aspects we are going to study in sociology, right? When we see our curriculum, our textbook, you know, our curriculum is divided into some blocks and some units. Unit is nothing but a kind of lesson. We start with how sociology emerged. Why? Because sociology is a very new science, 1853. Only very recently it has emerged, hardly 150 years or so. Prior to that, the word sociology was not there. Whatever description of society used to be either in economics or philosophy or political science, but not a special subject, namely sociology. Auguste Comte, a French writer who is considered as father of sociology, coined this word and described the scope, nature and subject matter of sociology. Now, where was the need to have sociology? Or which historical situations influenced for the origin and emergence of sociology? These aspects we are going to discuss in today's session.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Are you okay?
My mic, I was testing. Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Suddenly my mic went off. Okay.
Voice.
Yeah. Now I did that because I'm using my computer audio.
Okay.
So some fluctuation was there, immediately it has. Okay.
No.
Coming back to what is society? You know, we, our friends, our family members, we usually define our society means our community, where we are living, what we are doing. Not only that, we also say the entire world is a society. That is the reason in sociology, two different words will be used in order to understand society. That is society without any additions or suffixes and prefixes. Society means the people all over the world. But in sociology, we'll be studying not only people all over the world, but also a particular community or a particular cultural group or particular, let us say, society, namely rural or urban society, or let us say primitive tribes or modern societies. So whenever we use that, we usually add one suffix a a society. Society is a systematic study of a society. Auguste Comte, all these persons, first they thought, particularly Auguste Comte, he wanted to have a science just like physics, chemistry, natural sciences. Hence, what he did is he has coined a word, namely social physics. Later, he realized that we cannot do any experiment just like a physicist or chemist do. He changed this word into sociology, societas plus logi or logos. But before going into the definitions, meaning, etc., that particular part, let us see the conditions which created a need for a new science. You please try to remember your schooling as well as your intermediate level scholastic work. When we study about any society, we usually start with what might have happened previously. We call it history, right? And what is going to happen? We call it as, let us say, futuristic studies and all that. Our present day society is based upon previous society. It's a very common thing. It may sound a little bit philosophical, but no, it is not. Why I'm starting with this statement is certain revolutions, certain situations created a need to have a new science to study society other than economics, political science, and other subjects which you have studied at your intermediate level. Some of you might have studied. What are they? And how best we can understand about them. When it has happened, I have already mentioned 1853 is the birth year of sociology, right? But why 1850s? Why not prior to that? Why not after that? We usually get these questions. In order to understand this question, we have to understand where it emerged. It was born where, birthplace of sociology, and what has happened in that particular region or in those communities. Sociology is not from India, nor from Russia, nor from China or any other, but it is from European societies. This is very significant matter. We have to remember this. The reason is each country will have its own history. In European societies, 18th century is very famous for two different revolutions. All of you are well aware of these two different revolutions. What are they? You please try to remember what you have studied in your history. One is French Revolution and Industrial Revolution. On the basis of various conditions which led to French Revolution as well as Industrial Revolution, philosophers, thinkers started thinking about society and various changes which are coming up in the society. And then they thought there is a need to have a separate science which can have a comprehensive outlook to understand the society, its development, progress, or change, and various aspects. This is a kind of introduction for what we are going to discuss. Now, once again, let me come back to this, what is sociology? Or some kind of, what can I say, intro part.
One person to another person discussed.
Are you able to see the slide here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Yes. I have used one word, I think you remember it. Sociology is a comprehensive subject. Why it is a comprehensive subject? You please see, there is a diagram here. How many social sciences are there? You are having economics, you are having political science, history, anthropology, psychology, right? Geography. When we talk about sociology, all these elements we are going to have. All these elements vis-a-vis in relation to human being and his society. Right? Now, why should we study society? Where is the need to have the present day society and its study. One particular aspect, it is very visible to us. We can see it. What is it? Stratification in sociology, we call it. That is, we are having so many classes, upper class, middle class, lower class. It's a social class. How do you decide it? Say, for instance, a particular area may be known as upper class residential area. Other area may be known as middle class residential area. How to understand? If you see the rents of a particular area, then upper class residential area and rents of our houses are always higher than a middle class residential area. I think all of us observe this phenomenon, right? Similarly, of course, in our country, racial problems are not there, but in some of the countries, we are having racial problems. Black people and white people. Black people are different, white people are different, only on the basis of their skin color. Women are different and men are different. Women are not supposed to do certain activities. Men are not supposed to do certain activities. Like this also, we usually say differences or inequalities. Similarly, power, that may be economic power or political power. We are having political leaders and also we are having ranks or persons who participate in political activities, but they are not considered as leaders. And who are powerful? Only people who are having power, they are powerful, right? Similarly, prestige is another aspect on the basis of achievement. That may be, let us say, money, or that may be some kind of political power or economic power or education, you name it. So many parameters are there. But we are having some kind of prestige-wise equalities also. All these decide what is that we are going to do in a society. How we usually fulfill all our needs in a society. We simply say all are equal, but not all are equal, because in sociology, we come across so many parameters which show that all are not equal. We have created certain institutions. These institutions are already, slide is there, you please read that. These institutions are known as basic social institutions. And we have all these basic social institutions, but each society will have separate methods or separate rules and regulations related to these social institutions. This is a kind of basis in order to understand why sociology originated, right? Now, when it is originated, I have already mentioned European society. Europe is the birthplace and 19th century is the birth century. Here, certain aspects we have to see for the development of sociology. Industrial evolution, already you have mentioned optly. We are going to have some details, more details about industrial revolution also. And other two are prior to 19th century or 1820s, 30s. People were not traveling much. They were stick to their villages. But all of a sudden, because of communication, not let us say written or oral communication and all that, but having railroads or some kind of transportation. If you take Leslie White, using more horsepower, people started going from one area to another area. For what purpose? In most of the cases, it is for good employment opportunities sometimes, and sometimes it is to eke out livelihood. Why eke out livelihood? Because of the industrial revolution, most of the agricultural operations came to a standstill. All these agricultural laborers, what to do? They have to work in an industry or capitalism, we usually call it. These people started going from their villages or manors to the place where industries are established. Now, this is one aspect. Then another one is certain natural sciences like physics, chemistry, biology. These sciences were given utmost importance during the 19th century. All of you are well aware of Charles Darwin, right? Theory of natural selection, or person who said that our forefathers were monkeys. All of you are, I think, well aware of this particular theory.
Yes, ma'am.
And he has coined structure, function, those concepts. Those concepts entered into our sociology via Herbert Spencer, who is a social Darwinist. Now, when we talk about structure, function, etc., biological sciences, then biology has become a successful science. Previously, it was not like that. For instance, if you take 16th century or 17th century, or probably those who studied chemistry, not only at school level, but beyond that, intermediate also, we usually start with alchemy. I think this word is familiar to you. We also start with one person's name, Cavendish. Once upon a time, chemistry was not a specific science. It was known as alchemy. Why alchemy? Because people wanted to create gold. Many people used to go for that. And they used to do so many chemical experiments. And from those experiments, a new science, chemistry, came into existence. All of you are well aware of it. Similarly, physics. Physics is known as queen of sciences. Even physics also. Physics, along with trigonometry, along with various mathematical principles, has created a new thing. That is, you can fly or you can travel. All these aspects are linked with our physical or natural sciences. This success of natural sciences went up to a particular point, saying that only natural sciences are sciences. No other social science is a science. They cannot be considered as science. What is a science? Immediately people used to give a definition. If you are experimenting upon, if you are able to collect data, if you are able to analyze it by using mathematical principles or statistical principles like your range or standard deviation or mean, mode, median, if you are able to come to a conclusion that was known as generalization and prove it, then only you have to say your science is a science. Otherwise, it is not. The very first characteristic, experimentation, where can you do? Laboratory. Unless you have a laboratory, you cannot do any experiments, right? So only those sciences which can do experiments were considered as sciences. It has created a new need. All social sciences were not considered as sciences as per this particular definition. So these are the factors which created a need for a new science. Now let us see more details about industrial revolution. What has happened? In industrial revolution, we come across a major change. People who were doing agriculture, they left agriculture and they started either establishing factories or working in the factories. All of you are well aware of this, right? What happens if you are working in a factory? Immediately there emerges two classes. Of course, even in agricultural societies also, you will be having classes, no doubt at all. But here, the class structure will become more and more crystallized. Persons who are having factories, because they are keeping capital, they are also having some money, land, etc. They are utilizing these resources, establishing factories in order to produce some product. Right? Factory, I'm deliberately using it. It was not an industry. Factories produce things. And who will do the job here? It is always persons who were dependent upon agricultural labor or agricultural activities. Whether they are serfs, whether they are freemen, all these persons started working in the factories. And even working hours also were 12 to 13 to 14 hours. This has created among the masses a new thinking process. Prior to that, when they were in agricultural society, August Comte says so. Agricultural society, they used to think that if any problem arises, then God is going to take care of it. We are nothing. Everything is decided by God. But when they started working in factory, that God concept has changed because everything is decided by the capitalist, the person who ever established the factory. This is a new thing. How to understand the society? They had to go for a new thinking process. Yes, somebody is having some doubt. Come on.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my doubt is that when all the agricultural force went into the industry, who took care of how did the agriculture, how the nation had its agricultural produce? There should be some
they went
deficit.
for colonies. That is the reason they went for colonies. That is the reason they have shown their power. For instance, if you take, let's say, North America and South America, North America is a developed one because of the travel, migration from many people from European societies. They traveled to America, particularly North America. They developed it, and immediately they started showing their power on the local people or aboriginals or indigenous people. What they said is, I think you might have heard one word, banana republic, right? Have you heard this word?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Mexico, I think this is the country's name.
No,
probably. Mexico, are you aware of this particular country? Mexico?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
you might have heard. Mexico is not in North America. It is in southern part of America. So what America did is they have gained political power this area, on this area, and they said you have to grow only this particular crop. For many years, Mexicans were not allowed to grow any other crop other than banana. Not only Mexico, many other countries from southern part of America. If you are allowed to grow only one crop, then what happens? You have to depend upon other countries or other people for your survival, right? In colonialism, even this part also is there. I think you might have heard about Boston Tea Party. That is export of tea leaves from one country to another country. Have you?
Yes, ma'am.
From China to tea leaves were imported by Americans, for that matter, Europeans, you can say. If China refuses to do so, or if, let us say, some European country refuses to pay, then China is going to lose. Even today it is there, but it is not like that. We are not banana republics now. Secondly, when people started migrating to cities, agriculture was simply left, and only few people, feudal lords, they have established in factories and also in agriculture, because simultaneously we are having scientific revolution also. All of you are well aware, our weaving machine was introduced and a variety of agricultural tools were introduced during this particular period. Prior to that, people used to work, but after, let us say, industrial revolution, whatever agriculture was done, less people, more machines were there. So people lost their employment there. Then they had to go to the cities. They had to migrate to the cities in order to search livelihood or search work. This has created a variety of problems in cities, that may be poverty or what can I say, lack of employment or very low lifestyles and all that. Even children also were asked to work for 12 hours per day. If you read some of the English novels which describe the society at the time of industrial revolution, you will come across all these. A Tale of Two Cities, I think you might have heard about this. During 18th and 19th century, childhood used to be over by 9th year. By 9 years, a person used to be recruited in an industry to work. Until the present day, 18 years, minority was only up to 9 years. Afterwards, it so happened only 6 years, up to 6 years. Then I know, once again, a question comes. Who used to look after these children? All of you probably, if not all, some of you might have gone to a particular schooling system like Mary Montessori or Montessori schooling system or kindergarten system, etc. All of you probably might have, or you are teaching this particular rhyme to your children. For instance, Ringa Ringa Roses, pocket full of roses. I think you remember this. Bubonic plague came in European societies. At the time, flower, namely poise. People used to believe that if you keep that flower in your pocket, then plague will not come. But many people died because of plague. Why? What is the reason? The living conditions of people, particularly in slum areas, many people who were not having any minimum facilities. Then what about the children? Here comes the question of Montessori. Marie Montessori, what she thought is children whose parents are going, particularly 6 years, less than 6 years children, whose parents are going to the factories for work, somebody should be there to look after them and teach minimum things, part of history, counting up to 10, and little bit, some kind of, let us say, just now I mentioned Ringa Ringa Roses, a kind of chitka vaidyamu in our Telugu we usually say, these things, and she taught that. And of course, we are following the same method even today, but these things, these are all new changes, right? In agriculture, we have machines. In industries, we have machines. From agricultural societies, people migrated to the factory sources, where factories are there. These areas are known as cities. And here, already I have mentioned, lot of crowding was there. Filth was there. Poverty was there. Unemployment was there. Beyond all these things, nobody used to recognize other person. We talk about joint family relations and all that in our country. Even in European societies, also joint family relations, all those were there. But once industrial revolution emerged, anonymity became one of the characteristics of the relationships. I don't know who are you, and you don't know who I am. This is described as traditional order is being challenged. In traditional order, all these familiar relationships, neighborhood, friends, all these were very, very crucial and important. But now no longer they are important. And these changes also brought so many democratic changes. Everybody started looking after about himself or herself only. Previously, we used to have camaraderie-ness, and slowly that was going down, and a variety of changes we can see. These changes came into existence only because our existence, human beings' existence, is explained via industries and industrial production. What is it you are doing? If you are doing more and more products, then yes, you are a good person. You are having prestige. If you are not able to do so, then you are not having prestige. You please see how the prestige concept is described at that time. Because of this, European society faces so many problems at that time. Now, colonial empires, all of you are well aware, France, Spain, Britain, and all of you are aware, even to our country, Portuguese people came. All they started having or trying to get more and more place for their activities all over the world. These, in fact, France, Spain, Britain are termed as first world countries because these are the three countries which were having so many colonies. All over the world, they were having their colonies. And you know what has happened in our country, so I don't think there is any need to talk about colonial rule in any place. Everywhere that was more or less the same. When colonialism comes, then the country which is a ruler, colonial emperor or empire, will definitely impose its culture on the country where persons had to succumb to the power of the ruler country. Then what happens? There emerges a social change. And social change always leads to cultural change, our ideas and all those things. Now, in this scenario, people lost their belief in God. People lost in their belief in human personal relationships because everywhere so many problems were there. In such a scenario, along with coupled with success of Newtonian principles or other natural sciences and their success, people started thinking that there should be a new science which uses principles of natural sciences and also studies society. Because in society, we are having so many problems. Somebody should take care of those problems. Somebody should resolve those problems, right? In order to resolve these problems, the very input which we require is we should understand what is a society, how society is functioning. Without functioning, we will not be able to think about any problem. So sociology only analyzes what is happening. It never gives any solutions for any problem. It is not a moral science. We are going to discuss this at length, but here you please remember, when sociology came into existence, Auguste Comte, a French philosopher who is considered as father of sociology, never thought that that is going to resolve the problems. He wanted to understand the society. In fact, he was influenced by his Guruji, his teacher, Henry the Saint Simon. Simon also was thinking about preparing theories would change, how change occurs. What happens if a new cultural item is introduced in a society? So Simon influenced Auguste Comte. Of course, this theoretical part we'll see in our next lesson. Here, he wanted to take principles of physics into the study of sociology. Hence, it is social physics. What are the principles of physics? At the time, when Newtonian principles were there, or when trigonometry coupled with physics was taken in order to construct very big buildings to roads and railways and all that. So in such a scenario, the basic emphasis was on only two aspects. One is dynamics and another one is statics. I think all of you are well aware of these two words. In physics, we study statics and dynamics. Say, for instance, if you are having a table in front of you, it is in the state of inertia, because we talk about two states of matter, inertia and motion, right? Motion means always moving. Inertia means not at all having any movement at all. So if any matter is in the state of inertia, then we call that situation, we study that situation as statics. When a particular matter is in motion, movement, then we call it as dynamics, and we study it as dynamics. For instance, if you remember your experiments which you did at 10th level or intermediate, a passing of electricity, their movement is there. Those are linked with
Ma'am, some disturbance is coming.
Whereas, let us say, measuring something, whether by using vernier calipers or any other, you are talking about statics. Auguste Comte took these two words, two concepts, and he said, whatever rules, regulations, or cultural aspects, or customs, or traditions, all these, they are static. They will not change just like that. So sociology studies this aspect. Not only that, we will be changing. Our economic system will be changing into industry. Please mute your mic, ma. Somebody has not muted your mic. Please mute your mic. My mic mute cheyandi. And concentrate on the lesson. It is better to concentrate. Okay? Now, dynamics says change. Whatever changes are occurring in society, even that also will be studied. And in order to do that, what he did, societas, a Greek term, and logi, a Latin term, he combined these two and he has coined this word, sociology, as a new science way back in 1838. But at that time, what he did is societas and physics, these two words were taken. At that time, it was not sociology. 1838, when Auguste Comte talked about this new science, it was social physics. Later, in 53, he has changed it to sociology. And his theory is based upon certain experiences. Whatever you experience in a society, on that basis, he has coined this word and also described it. His theory is known as positivism. Positivism is nothing but it is a kind of objective method. What is that objective method? Everything will be seen, right? Whatever we see, that is known as phenomenon. Phenomena is a plural term. Whatever we see in our society, all those are phenomena. We'll be studying these phenomena on the basis of how they look. One simple example is given here. You please see. If any black sheep on the field, positivist could not say there is a black sheep, but he could say whatever I am seeing, the side which I am seeing is black. The other side we don't know. I think it is a little bit tricky, but don't think it is very complicated. Whatever you are seeing, only that will be taken into consideration. That is the reason sociology is not a moral science. A person is living all alone, or a person is migrating from rural society to, let us say, industrial society, urban society. We will be seeing only a person migrating from rural society to urban society, but we will not go into why, what psychological factors forced him to do migrate from rural to urban society. No, we will not go into that matter. Psychological aspects we will not go. We'll be only observing whatever phenomenon is going on, and that too by doing experiments or scientific method, by collecting data using mathematics, coming to generalizations, having some hypotheses, and also preparing certain theories. Whatever social chaos, Comte uses this word. At the time, I'm talking about 18th, 19th century. We have already saw that. A lot of apathy was there, problems were there, chaos was there, or problems like crime or poverty or unemployment, all these were there. Chaos is a word which we use when everything is in a mess. Comte thought that his contemporary society was in a mess. So he created this science, he established this science in order to understand the chaos, so that by having certain methods, in fact, he describes humanistic religion also, certain methods, we can somehow cure this social chaos. Now, his theory is there, that we'll see afterwards. Now, I don't think that is needed because we are not going to go into the theory. When it is needed at the time, we'll go into that. This is the impact of Industrial Revolution on the development of sociology, right? And one more revolution we have to take into consideration. Up to this point, let me stop it here for a minute. Is it, are you able to understand this? Or do you require some more detailed explanation? Please tell me. Shiva?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am, it's clear, ma'am.
It's clear, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. If you have any doubt, you please stop me. Then once again, we'll see that. Okay,
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Yes,
now, let us see the other revolution which created a kind of base or basis for the development of sociology. This is, all of you are well aware, that is French Revolution. What has happened in French Revolution? Why French Revolution is very, very important for us. French Revolution, once again, 18th and 19th centuries. Because the time French Revolution occurred, of course, 1743 and all that, but prior to that and after that also, we have to take into consideration. That is the reason I am saying, using this word 18th century to 19th century. What has happened? France has a type of hierarchical system. Certain estates were there. In most of the European societies were there, but in France particularly, they were very, very predominant. They were having lords, clergy, they were also having freemen, they were also having serfs. Of these four, first three are having some kind of pub. End of the, let us say, 17th century and the beginning of 18th century, French society was literally in doldrums. I think all of you are aware of the Louis XIV, who ruled France for so many years. It so happened during this particular ruler's time, Exchequer of France was not having any coffers in that, because he was spending money just like, let us say, a flow. That much money was not coming. Then how to get money to the exchequer? That was a question for the king. He, along with so many people from who are freemen, who are having business, bankers and all that, what they thought is, okay, let us levy taxes on people. And this levying taxes went up to a particular stage where 300%, 400% taxes also were levied again on people. That was really very problematic situation for each and every human being living in that particular country. Then at the time, what they did is, why don't you have, because as per the estate system, they should have a general meeting of all estates together. People who belong to all these estates, except serfs. Serfs are nothing but slaves. They should meet and decide. But the king refused to have that meeting, not for 1 or 2 years, but years together for nearly more than half a century. When 300% to 400% taxes were levied, people started demanding, why can't we have a meeting and decide in a proper way? In fact, it is not exactly freemen, but bankers and other persons. They started, it's a kind of movement. And many people started writing philosophically also. For instance, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he wrote a book entitled Social Control. He says in his book, men were free, but now because of this technical know-how and all those things, metallurgy and all those things, we have entered into a kind of shackles, a kind of lack of freedom. Similarly, J.S. Mill, free will, a concept was going on. It was fashionable to talk about free will. Everybody was talking about free will. We should have independence. We should have our own idea should be taken into consideration. All these aspects were going on. Because of this philosophical scenario and also economic situation, they forced the king to have all their 3 estates general meeting. And this meeting became very, what can I say, violent. Many people were arrested because they have not paid their taxes and all that. They went to the jail, prison, and dismantled the entire jail. Bastille, it was a fort, but it was also a prison. And there emerged a kind of movement from general people against the kings and clergy. They refused to do. Later, after a few years, it so happened, there emerged a directorate. All of you are well aware of Napoleon Bonaparte. He has established a kind of democratic setup where everything will be done as per the rules and regulations. It was also known as directorate. So this change created a kind of ideological base for the development of sociology. Everybody is free. Nobody can pressurize other person. If one is pressurized, then that may result in some kind of repercussion. That may be violence, that may be movement, that may be any other thing. But definitely all these are going to bring some changes. These changes create a new society. These are the aspects which were taken into consideration by the sociologists. And they started studying social change. How European society was there prior to these revolutions, at the time of revolution, how it was, and after revolution, how it became or what is going to become, a kind of generalizations. These are all aspects which created not only a space for the creation of new science, namely sociology, but also these aspects gave lot of inputs to the sociology, whether that is theory or concepts or methods. We have taken most of the methods from general, particularly natural sciences. We have coined new concepts and studied because of the social chaos prevalent in European society. We also developed so many methods so that we can understand society in a better way. More understanding we require, hence we can understand it in a better way. So these aspects created our subject, namely sociology. And of course, we take European societies as basis for most of our studies, need not be sociology. The reason is industrial revolution has changed the societies in a very rapid way. After industrial revolution only, each society is changing in a very rapid way. For instance, in 1950s, there were many rural and urban society studies in our country. At that time, one of the sociologists, he mentioned that whatever change occurred prior to, let us say, 1900, for 100 years or 200 years, after 1950, it is only a matter of 5 to 10 years. So you can imagine the time gap there. A change which took 100 years prior to industrial revolution or impact of industrial revolution, the same very change is occurring in 5 years instead of 100 years. You can see the pace or speed of change. When society is changing in a very rapid way, what happens? Most of the social institutions also will be changed. New institutions will be coming. New ideas will be coming. New values will be coming. New norms will be coming. That means our entire life will be ever changing in a very rapid way. And after 2000, this change, pace of this change is very rapid. I think all of you are well aware. What is fashionable today morning may not be fashionable today evening. Why? Let us take one simplest example. Most of you are having mechanical devices, mostly phone and desktop, right? Desktop is very old. Laptop is a present day thing. Tab is more modern. And even your phones also, every year we'll be having new technology introduced to us. Some of the companies, they are making new phones, not let us say pieces, with new technology. Every month, if you take one example, Samsung, I think most of you are having Samsung phones, smartphones. Every week, it will be doing research for 1 week. Second, third weeks, it will be implementing that research results. And fourth week, you will be having a new device from Samsung. There are so many other companies also, very rapidly they are using. For instance, let us take a simplest example. Once upon a time, we used to have Andhra Bank. I think some of you recognize that name. Now, this bank merged into Union Bank of India. Why this? You please say every day a company is merging into another company or a company is purchasing various other companies and all that. So very rapidly changes are occurring in a economic system. All these changes change our life. Sociology is aimed to understand all these aspects. Society, how it runs, that means social structure or social statics. Society, how it changes, what happens if change occurs, that is social dynamics or change. These are the aspects which we study in sociology. So this is about the origin, emergence, and development of sociology. Before going to the next part, please let me know whether you were able to understand this or not, or still having any doubts.
Ma'am, understood. I have a doubt, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me, ma'am.
Ma'am, you said that regarding the industrial revolution, like many agricultural laborers turned into a factory workers, right?
Yes, right.
And the same concept I was reading in textbook, ma'am, and I got it out like here they told about intellectual crisis. What does that mean?
I'm sorry, I could not get that. What is the last word you used, ma?
Intellectual crisis, ma'am. Like it led to many intellectual crises throughout the Europe, it seems. Like what does that mean?
Hello, sister. Can you say slow?
Can you be a little bit slow, ma? Somehow your voice is...
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in Industrial Revolution, they like in textbook they mentioned that there are mostly like industrial crisis throughout the Europe, like intellectual crisis. What does that intellectual crisis mean?
Intellectual crisis means, no, it was not exactly, no. We will not use that word intellectual crisis in this context. Intellectual crisis means whatever theories, whatever philosophical trends were there prior to this situation. I'm talking about situation. What they found is all those previous theories are good for nothing. Then they started doubting whether we should believe that or not. Let me take a simplest example. Once upon a time, if you take starting from 13th century to 18th century last till end of 18th century or 19th century also, we used to believe in God. Comte says it's a theological state. Whatever we are doing because of God's power only. We should do like this. So everything we used to give, whether it is good or bad, the credit used to be given to the God. Right? It is a kind of philosophical narration or interpretation or explanation of what is happening. All of a sudden, when Industrial Revolution emerged, it brought so many problems, whether it is crime or violence or poverty or unemployment. Old theory of God, its power, his power and all those things, were not at all in a position to understand this type of social chaos. Now philosophers started thinking in a different way. There emerged a crisis or a kind of, let us say, hostility between old thinkers and new thinkers. Let me take a simplest example. Here we have to take one example. Please permit me to take it. For instance, Christianity. Prior to that, Protestantism was not there prior to Industrial Revolution. Martin Luther King, I think you remember his name. Similarly, Calvin, he too added some more points to the then Christianity. Calvinism is there. Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism is a book entitled, written by Max Weber. In this, he clearly talks about how religion, one of the basic social institution, changes our ideas. A particular theory is prior to, let us say, 18th century, is in a such a way. One should do like this, one should not do like this. But after Industrial Revolution, all these have become not useful. Then there emerged a kind of Protestant movement. The name itself talks about this, right? Calvin, for instance, taking interest on whatever amount you lend to other persons. Christianity clearly, even today, Christianity and Islam clearly prohibit taking interest on loans, right? Even if you take only some percentage, but the then economic situation was in such a way, unless and until you take interest, you will not be able to survive at all. So it's a new change. The philosophy, economic philosophy, which we talked about, invisible hand and all that, they were good for nothing philosophical explanations. So this is known as philosophical crisis. So whatever they learned, they were not useful. Similarly, free will, or similarly, your concept of independence, concept of equality, concept of control, all these had to change. Let me take only half a minute. France, which was having a state system for so many years, hundreds of years, it was really very good. But during French Revolution, they have not accepted the estate system. Kings are different, clergy are different, freemen are different. They said, no estates, nothing. This estate system should not be there. It should be banned. Right? So estate system is a philosophy which was not accepted after French Revolution and Industrial Revolution. So this situation is known as crisis or philosophical crisis. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to understand it?
Excuse me, ma'am. I have a doubt. What is the meaning of crisis, ma'am?
క్రైసిస్ తెలుగులో ఒక మాట ఉంది, అది చెప్తా మీకు ఈజీగా అర్థమవుతున్నాము. సంక్షోభము అంటారు.
Sorry, ma'am. I don't know English.
I
don't know Telugu. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Then let me mention the dictionary meaning of crisis. Why dictionary meaning? I know you are going to ask the dictionary meaning. Why?
Maybe downfall, ma'am.
Hello?
Yeah, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Why dictionary meaning? I know you are going to say dictionary meaning with simple terms. It can give a meaning. Crisis, if you see any dictionary, here it is defined as a time of intense difficulty. That is crisis. Intense danger. That also is a crisis. Say, for instance, you are standing on the banks of a sea, let us say.
Yeah.
Sea looks very beautiful. But all of a sudden, your smartphone gives one, what can I say, caution that tsunami is going to come within 10 minutes or 15 minutes. How do you feel? That is crisis.
Okay. Thank you.
Intensity should be that much. Now, if somebody says, okay, some kind of, let us say, ups and downs will be there in the sea, you will not be very, what can I say, right? You will not feel that crisis situation. But if tsunami is going to come, then it is a crisis. You don't know where to go, whom to approach and all that.
We are confused like that, ma'am.
Right. That is. Philosophical crisis means in philosophy, there emerged a situation. All those theories which they have prepared, they are good for nothing. They don't know where to go, whom to approach. People used to strongly believe, okay, if we do agricultural activities for generations together, our life is going to be very happily we can live. Right? Just like in movies, we usually say that the end frame, happily lived forever. But there is no situation. Nobody could say that, are you going to live happily? In fact, if you permit me, even now also, we are in such a situation since 2.5 years. People are saying corona, whether we are going to get rid of this corona or not, we don't know. We are seeing so many people because of corona, they are suffering a lot. We don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. If let us say something happens, there are so many people who lost their jobs, who lost their business opportunities. They had to close their shutters, who lost their family members, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
In some countries, lakhs of people died. So it is a crisis. We don't know. All our theories, all our beliefs, all our rituals, everything will become good for nothing. We can simply throw them into the ocean. So such a scenario, such a situation is known as crisis.
Thank you, ma'am.
Probably I have taken more time. I'm really very sorry for the students also.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
I understand clearly, ma'am. Thanks.
Yeah, tell me, ma'am.
Ma'am, in that in textbook they gave a word like enlightenment period. What is that enlightenment period?
Yeah. So it is linked with, let us say, that then, what can I say, philosophical, religious scenario in European countries.
Yes, ma'am.
In Europe, that is the reason I have mentioned Protestantism. So revivalism, enlightenment, these are new philosophical, what can I say, explanations emerged in Christianity. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Prior to that, we used to believe in certain aspects. And that particular religious theory, religious philosophy was in vogue throughout the European society. But some of the basic tenets of the then religious philosophy were questioned. And this new movement is known as revivalism. New concepts on the basis of which this new religious philosophy emerged and explained things is known as enlightenment. I know my explanation is just like Pilli Anaga Marjalamu, cat. Another name of cat is Marjala. I know that. But since it is linked mostly with, what can I say, religion, I don't want to go into much deeper into that. I'm really very sorry because it will be only limited to European society. This has not happened in other society like China or our country or certain other countries. Even France also. France was not that religious. Whereas in United Kingdom, that is England, where our industrial revolution occurred, from there people migrated to other areas. That is a different matter, but that was entirely different one. Racism is one aspect. When racism was, let us say, creating havoc, slavery was there. Abraham Lincoln banned slavery, prohibited slavery. Prior to that, Black people were taken as slaves. They were not considered as human beings. That was a situation at that time. That was a chaos or crisis at that time. And lynching a person, particularly Black, was a common phenomenon. If he does something, then immediately he used to be beaten up and he was burnt alive, as if he is some kind of animal also. Some of the animals were given rights, but not Black people, right? So new enlightenment ideas brought a new concept, namely on the basis of skin color. One should not be treated like this. Now, presently we are talking them as human rights and all those things. But this theory came into existence. That is nothing but enlightenment only. I've already mentioned Calvin's theory, that is taking interest in doing business activities, etc., etc. Some kind of activities were not allowed to be done. But later, of course, they said it's okay, particularly in doing administration or governance, etc. Only kings can have authority, political authority, because only king is empowered to have that as per the old religious philosophy. But new religious philosophy, which emerged after French Revolution, it clearly said it is not the only king. Whoever rules properly can have political power. That is, as Napoleon Bonaparte could become the director for France. So it is a new theory, enlightenment. Enlightenment is linked to so many aspects, but it has happened on the basis of some of the religious principles. Any other word or any other? Anvi Sri. Hello, Ma Anvi Sri. Are you there?
Ma'am?
Yeah, tell me.
మీరు ఈరోజు చెప్పిన లెసన్ ఇదే కదా మ్యామ్?
ఫస్ట్ లెసన్ మా మీ దాంట్లో ఫస్ట్ లెసన్
సోషాలజీ ఇదే చెప్పారు కదా మ్యామ్? ఫ్రాన్స్ అండ్ ఇండస్ట్రీ ఇదే చెప్పారు కదా?
అదే చెప్పాను అంటే చదువుకోండి ఒకసారి. ఇంపాక్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రెంచ్ రెవల్యూషన్ ఉంది మీ దాంట్లో కదా?
మ్యామ్. ఓకే మ్యామ్. థ్యాంక్ యూ మ్యామ్.
అప్పుడే మన టైం అయిపోయిందా? అమ్మో సారీ. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. అండ్ టుమారో ఆల్సో సేమ్ టైం we are having the class and we'll
okay ma'am. Right? Okay yes, ma'am. Thank you so much ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you ma'am.
Thank you ma'am.
Thank you ma'am.
Anvi first baby.
Classes.
ఇక్కడ వైజాగ్ నుంచి ఎవరైనా ఉన్నారా? హలో, వైజాగ్ నుంచి ఎవరైనా ఉన్నారా? అంటే చాలా మంది బుక్స్ చూపిస్తున్నారు కదా, అందుకే డౌట్ వచ్చి అడుగుతున్నాను. ఎవరైనా రెస్పాండ్ అవరా?
అంటే హైదరాబాద్ వాళ్ళకి బుక్స్ వచ్చేసాయి, సో అందుకని.
హలో
హలో, అదే అదే హైదరాబాద్ వాళ్ళు బుక్స్ ఎవరో చూపిస్తున్నారు కదా, మాకు మా సైడ్ రాలేదు,
మీ
అందుకే అడుగుతున్నాం.
మీ వాయిస్ కట్ అవుతుందండి.
ఓ, సిగ్నల్ ఇష్యూ అయి ఉంటుంది.
మీరు ఎక్కడి నుండి మాట్లాడుతున్నారు?
మాది వైజాగ్ నుంచి.
వైజాగ్?
విశాఖపట్నం.
అట్లా. అవునండి, హైదరాబాద్ బుక్కేనండి.
అంటే ఏం లేదు, మీకు మీ క్లాసెస్ అవి ఎప్పటి నుంచి స్టార్ట్ అయ్యాయి? మీది కూడా ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ కదా?
అవును, ఈ రోజేనండి. నేను కూడా ఈ రోజే చూస్తున్నాను. ఈ రోజు నుండి స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది.
అంటే మీకు బుక్స్ అవి వచ్చేసాయా?
ఇచ్చారండి.
అంటే మాకు రాలేదు. మీకు యూనివర్సిటీ అది బాగానే ఉన్నట్టుంది మీ సైడ్.
బ్రదర్, మీరు అయితే ఏ కాలేజ్ అయితే జాయిన్ అవుతారో ఆ కాలేజ్కి వెళ్తే మీకు బుక్స్ కూడా ఇస్తారు.
అదే బ్రో, నేను వెళ్ళాను, బట్ వాళ్ళు మీకు పోస్ట్ లో రావచ్చు అనేసారు. ఈ రోజు వెళ్ళాలి మళ్ళీ.
లేదు, పోస్ట్ లో రాదు. వెళ్తే మీరు ఆ కాలేజ్ అక్కడికన్నా వెళ్ళాలి, లేదంటే ఇక్కడికి హైదరాబాద్ కన్నా వచ్చి తీసుకోవాలి. రెండే ఆప్షన్ ఉంటాయి.
పోస్ట్ లో రావట్లేదని చెప్పారండి.
రావట్లేదు,
పోస్ట్ లో రావట్లేదా? అయితే యూనివర్సిటీకి వెళ్ళాలనుకుంటా.
అదే యూనివర్సిటీగానే రావాలి, లేదంటే మీరు ఎక్కడైతే జాయిన్ అయ్యారో ఆ కాలేజ్ లో అడ్మిషన్ తీసుకున్నారో అక్కడికన్నా వెళ్ళి తీసుకోవాలి.
ఓకే, అయితే మీ హైదరాబాద్ సైడ్ అందరికి వస్తాయి అన్నమాట.
అందరికి రాలేదండి, ఎవరు తీసుకుంటారో వాళ్ళకి వస్తాయి.
అదే ఐ మీన్ బుక్స్ పెట్టుకుంటారు కదా, వాళ్ళకి వచ్చాయా అంటున్నాను.
ట్యూషన్ ఫీజు కట్టుంటే ఆటోమేటిక్ గా మీకు అడ్మిషన్ నెంబర్ అవి వస్తాయి కదా, నెంబర్ తీసుకొని అక్కడ యూనివర్సిటీ
నాది ట్యూషన్ ఫీ కట్టేశాను, ఐడెంటిటీ వచ్చింది. వాళ్ళు బుక్స్ అవి వస్తాయి అన్నారు కానీ మాకు రాలేదు. అందుకే మామూలు మీలో అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఎవరో బుక్ అయితే చూపించారు కదా, అదే డౌట్ వచ్చి అడిగాను. అయితే ఇటు సైడ్ మీలో ఎవరైనా వైజాగ్ నుంచి ఉన్నారా? నేను కాకుండా.
చెప్పండి.
అంటే బ్రో, మీ వైజాగ్ నుంచి ఎవరైనా ఉన్నారా అని.
వైజాగ్ తెలియదు, మీ హైదరాబాద్ నుంచి.
అంటే ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ నుంచి.
తెలియదు.
హలో
హలో
హలో ఒకసారి నాకు కొంచెం కన్ఫ్యూజ్ ఉంది. ఇందాక చెప్పింది మేడం లెసన్ ఫస్ట్ యూనిట్ 1 చెప్పిందా, థర్డ్ యూనిట్ వరకు చెప్పిందా?
యూనిట్ ఫస్ట్ యూనిట్ చెప్పింది.
ఫస్ట్ అయితే చెప్పింది, కానీ ఓన్లీ ఫస్ట్